the Podfix Network.
Hello and welcome to episode 204 of the Filmmakers Podcast. This, as you know, is a podcast where we talk filmmaking, from indie films to studio films and everything in between. How to get them made, how to make them, and how to try not to F it up, in our very, very humble opinion. Today, I'm delighted to tell you we have on the directors of the fantastic movie Synchronic. The directors are Aaron Moorhead and Justin Benson, and Synchronic is a mind-altering sci-fi thriller horror, but we're not going to put it in a genre. That you will find out why on this week's episode. Synchronic is an amazing movie. It stars Anthony Mackie and Jamie Dornan. On the episode we talk about Aaron and Justin as co-directors, because not only were they co-directors, but Aaron was a DOP and Justin wrote the film. They produced the movie together as well. We dive deep into their history, into the films that they made before. The first one they made, Resolution, their second feature, Spring, and their third one, The Endless. We also dip into their fifth movie a little bit as well, which they made in lockdown. More of that to come. At the moment, they are making Moonlight for Marvel, but we're not allowed to talk about that. Not yet. Not yet. When we get them back on, we'll talk about that in more detail. We also dive into making movies and why you should just do it. We also talk about the fact that you are the cavalry to your own films. We talk about investment and how you can get it, and how the boys got investment for their film on subreddit. That's right, Reddit's subreddit. We also talk about relationships in film and the people around you, and having cool Zoom strategies for getting people on board. We also talk about the writing process and how you should prep and shot list a movie and do lots of it. You are going to learn loads from this episode. Aaron and Justin were fantastic, and they sat down with myself and Robbie, McKane, and we had an absolute blast chatting to them. So much info and knowledge, and they just gave it all to you for free. So if you do like this, because it is for free, then do jump on iTunes and give us a lovely 5-star review. It means the world to us. Speaking of which, The Dare, my debut movie, is now on Amazon Prime in the UK. So if you want to watch that, if you haven't watched it yet, or if you want to watch it again, it's now on Amazon Prime. And if you do watch it, do give us a lovely review. It does make a world of difference. Honestly, it helps you go up the charts and all that malarkey. I'm sure you've heard loads before. And thank you, all those who have supported and have given some amazing feedback. Honestly, it warms my heart so much that you like the film. It's been a labour of love for me to get The Dare out there, and the amazing team that helped me make it. Honestly, it's an incredible thing to get a movie out there and get it made. It really is. We all know that. So thank you for all that support. But I wanted to touch on this week a little bit about how easy it is to support people when they're doing well. And as much as we love that, as much as it's great that you're liking my stuff, honestly, it's wonderful. But what about when we're not doing well? What about those times when we're not making a movie? We're struggling for money. We don't know when we're going to be on set ever again. It's really easy to jump on the Facebooks and the socials and go, oh my god, that's amazing, you've been signed by so-and-so, or your film's just been picked up, or you're making another movie. And we can feel slightly jealous and envious of all that. But it's easy to jump on all that. It's easy to click like. But what we don't often do is support people when they're not doing well. Because when they're down or when they have failed. Because everybody fails in this business. And hopefully we learn and we can pick ourselves up. But we do need help. So if you haven't heard from anyone in a while, if someone hasn't been on your socials or hasn't messaged you, send them a message and see how they're doing. Especially now during this difficult time. Because this is when we, as a collective, as a group, as a tribe, the Filmmaking Podcast tribe, should be supportive of each other. So I implore you this week to do that. Just send a message to someone you haven't heard from in a while, a filmmaker friend, and just give them a little leg up. It might just make their day, and it could get them out of the slump that they're in, and get out of the rut, and help them get back on the right path. So that's our task this week, and moving forward into the future. Let's do it. Come on, let's do this. Let's support each other more than we've been doing. Let's do it. Send messages, send emails. Come on. Let's help each other make films. That's our task this week. Talking about supporting, this week's episode is fantastically sponsored by the good people at Screencraft. Now, Screencraft, as you know, because they have sponsored this show before, specialises in genre-specific screenplay competitions with top industry judges. For example, the Screencraft Comedy Screenplay competitions just open for TV and film script submissions. So if you have a comedy screenplay right now in TV or film, then get it entered. These guys are brilliant and we highly recommend them. Judges include producers and managers at agencies of the top Hollywood comedy writing talents, and you can check that out at screencraft.org. Past winners have gone on to sell their scripts to major studios and have been hired by companies like Universal, Netflix, Amazon, Millennium, who actually sold the Dare, CBS, and many more. Screencraft winners are also highly sought after by literary managers and agents. So get on it now, screencraft.org. Link is in the show notes. Huge shout out to Sam Harry Evans, who has edited this week's episode. Thank you, Sam, and welcome to the team. So with that in mind and the amazing stuff you're going to learn on this week's episode with Aaron Moorhead and Justin Benson, let's get to it. I can't wait for you lot to hear this one. Thank you so much for your support on last week's episode with the hosts team. Wow, wasn't that ace? This is just as good. So sit down, relax and enjoy myself, Giles Alderson, Robbie McKane is my co-host, and the fantastic Aaron Moorhead and Justin Benson talking about all their films, but mainly Synchronic, which is out now, by the way, through Signature Entertainment. Thank you. So do go support, watch it. It's brilliant. Enjoy this week's Filmmakers Podcast. Hey.
Hey.
How we doing? All right?
Yeah, how you doing?
Yeah, good. It's lovely to meet you guys.
Yeah, this is a joy.
Hey, Robbie, how are you, buddy?
Yeah, not too bad, Giles.
Robbie McKane is our producer and host with me.
How's it going, guys?
Thank you so much for joining us. Honestly, it's a pleasure. The Synchronic is brilliant. I mean, I was blown away by how good it was. We get a lot of screeners. We do this a lot. And I just really thought it was fantastic. Robbie, what did you think?
Yeah, it's great. I watched it again this morning. It was awesome. I was just like blown away by the some of those sort of visual construction of it, especially, was really impressive, I thought. But we'll get into that.
Yeah, we definitely will. Have you been watching anything recently? I know you're working right now, but have you boys been watching anything that's inspired you at the moment? Something you'd recommend on your travels right now?
You're watching Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia.
And if for anyone that doesn't know what it is, it's Hamilton Morris, who's Errol Morris's son, is making a documentary series about the chemistry and often anthropological origins of psychoactive drugs, which obviously is super appropriate to Synchronic. But he just released a third season, and it's one of the most interesting things in the world, where he travels around trying to just find these really niche takes on psychoactive drugs, often ones you've never even heard of before.
Wow. Okay, cool. I've just finished Schitt's Creek. Very similar.
I've been watching Schitt's Creek as well. It's great. Yeah.
It's so good, isn't it? I mean, wow. You just think, I won't like this. Everyone kept saying, you'll love this. You really should watch it. And then I was like, all right, fine, I'll watch it. And just fell in love with the characters and everything. It was really cool, really well done. A really enjoyable show. Robbie, anything you've been watching recently that's stood out for you?
I've been watching a lot of Kiyoshi Kurosawa films. He's like a Japanese director who's not related to Akira Kurosawa, but he does lots of kind of mixture of genre and art house. He did a film called The Cure, which is about, like, you think it's a serial killer film and then it turns into something else. It's like, psychological and transcendent towards the end. So yeah, recommend his work.
I feel really bad for him. I mean, imagine being born with the last name Spielberg or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd be gutted, wouldn't you? It'd always play on you. I think if you've got a name that relates to someone in that business, or your name is Taylor Roofer, you tend to do that kind of a job. Do you know what I mean? Or if you've got Errol Flynn as your name, you're going to sort of move down into the theatrical world a little bit, right? I think that happens quite a lot.
Well, Steven Soderbergh probably was just like, all right, I think I can do this.
Yeah, exactly. It's so close. Yeah, I think that's interesting. I do think names do make a difference on what career you do. I do think it slightly affects it in some way. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's turning into a very kind of fate versus free will discussion quite early on, isn't it, Giles? It's quite serious.
It's quite serious, but I think that sort of ties us into Synchronic as well. I think that's really interesting, the fact that where you are in the world takes you back to that place, in the time travel element of Synchronic. And I just thought it was really fascinating, that, and I just wanted to touch on anything that could inspire and take us through that journey. But yeah, you boys have been doing this, for a while. You guys have been making movies, and I think that's really interesting for our listeners. I think they'd love to know sort of how you built up your amazing ability to create tension and to create humor and pathos within your camera work. And I think that's really fascinating. So maybe we'll talk about how you first got into this, how you two met, why you became filmmakers, actors, in that sense as well, putting yourself in movies for a bit, and then, creating this wonderful movie that is Synchronic. How did you start?
We met as interns about 10 years ago, and then just started working together more and more on small, very, very, very small commercials, music videos. And then we made our first movie, Resolution, eventually. A lot of times I think even we were thinking that we were going to make one independent film that was very small, and then someone would come along and it would be different. It would be like financiers and these people that are going to help you make your next movie, and you're just do this one scrappy thing that you're just going to go do. But it more ends up being like, you're going to do like five. Well, we're still doing it. We're still doing like little scrappy movies. And I guess the reason I say it is like, oh, how do you do it? It's like, oh, you just keep going out and doing it, even if you don't have the resources you were expecting. You just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And then you develop your style through that, and you develop your methods through that, as opposed to waiting someone to come along with the money, or an organization to come along with it, or whatever resources you think you need, the person you need to work with.
Or to just hand you a good script and say, oh, I'd like you to direct this. It's like, no, they don't hand the good scripts to you. They hand that to Steven Soderbergh. But you know what I mean? Like, they hand that to established directors. And that's even not true, by the way. That's the myth of the upper echelon good script doesn't exist. We did have opportunities to direct things that weren't ours right after Resolution, but it would have been the last thing we direct. It would have been horrible. Like that, it's all the bad stuff gets sent to the new indie directors. So you just got to like keep your head down and go make another like you movie.
That's fascinating. So that happened because I think that's really interesting. A lot of our filmmakers do think you're going to go make a movie, it does become a hit, or in terms of you've just made it and it gets out there and people see it. People do think that people are going to knock on the door and go, hey, you must direct my script, and well, screenwriters might be sending that, but money people and studios aren't, because they're trying to get the Steven Soderberghs or the, anyone else in that league. And we're kind of scratching around, and you do have to find your own projects, and you do have to push hard to get them made anyway, even if you have had a hit. What did you find then after Resolution? Did you find that work, like you mentioned there, you had to find it yourself, you still had to create and then make Spring before the Endless and stuff? Was that your journey?
Finding the good projects, I guess you're saying, like you were maybe getting offered stuff, but learning to say how to say no to all of that. And
we didn't have to learn. Anybody in the world would read these and be like, no, do not make these. You just get sent a bunch of bad scripts, and probably without financing, so it still would be a difficult thing to get made.
But I guess some filmmakers might feel pressured to make those scripts if they're being asked by a big studio to do it, or like leaned on a certain way.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird too, because we haven't had many straight up like, this is an offer. Yeah, here's pressure. It's more like
not from a studio. It's from like a small production company or something. Yeah.
Someone you've known or met along the way.
Yeah, and so it's more like, hey, you're interested, we'd like to talk to you. And what comes along with that is also you have to realize it's like, if you are interested, you have a lot of work ahead of you to still convince them that you could do it.
They have more work still to cast it and get financing. All it is normally is just a script. It's just someone's script. That one production company, which could be owned by anyone. We have a production company, just us clowns. Anyone can have a production company.
But if you put all of those waking hours you would have put convincing them that you could do their script, and you put it into your own stuff, you can go make your own stuff with very, very little money, very little resources, and have it be something that's tailor-made to you, and ultimately probably more gratifying than working on something that was originally someone else's. But yeah, and we've done that like 5 movies in now. Synchronic is like, we had a little more money, but it's still a very, very low budget film, and it's still ours. Technically, it's a much smaller movie than Spring, the movie that preceded it. And we've done projects after Synchronic that are much, much smaller. Things haven't changed a whole lot since after Resolution to after Synchronic, in terms of what are the avenues out there we can take for the next project.
I see what you mean. So you're still finding it yourself, and this is good for our listeners to know. You're still you're the person got to find those projects. You've either got to write it or get it together or find the right people to make it with you. You've still got to push constantly, right?
Yeah. There's this wonderful. It's one of the best, most inspiring, and also just accurate things I've ever seen, which is Mark Duplass's 2015 South by Southwest keynote speech, which is called. He calls it the Cavalry Isn't Coming speech because he's given it a few times. He wrote it in his book with his brother, like brothers. It's basically, you're gonna just go and make a movie with your friends for a couple of toothpicks and a safety pin and a borrowed camera. And then after you make that, you're just going to make a whole bunch more, and your budget's going to be like $10 or $15 or $100, and you just keep on making them until you're actually kind of good at it, as opposed to making your first one and then sending it to film festivals and finding out if you're good by validation of others. And then, you just keep going and going and going. And then you make your first feature in that same way. Your budget is $1,000 and you borrow stuff from Home Depot and return it and stuff. That's borrow quote, but that's the idea. And then that's when people start to pay attention, but it's all bad. So you have to go make another one like that, and then another one like that. And you don't have to do it that way, because at a certain point, what looks like the cavalry shows up. They're like, all right, do you want to do this movie? You can. And that's kind of like the point where you have to make a choice, because unless what they're offering is just that good, you got to just say no and go make another one like that. And the point is, at the end of it, I'm going to spoil his wonderful 20-minute spiel, which is just so well constructed, because it's very practical advice. It's not like find your voice. Like it doesn't use like vague advice. It's like really like, here's what to do tomorrow. Here's what to do a month from now. Here's what to do a year from now, specifically. But basically what he says is, at a certain point, you're going to look behind you and you're going to realize you have a body of work and the ability to get movies made and to survive off of it. And you are now the cavalry. And you can actually like make your friends' films you can make your friends' films exist. And that's the thing that has worked out for us. It's never exactly the same thing. Obviously, Synchronic was not financed out of our bank account, we're working on TV shows that are not our own, that kind of a thing. But the general philosophy and the actual practical steps stay the same.
Amazing. By the way, are you by a hangar? Are you like by an airport?
This is the first day this has ever happened. For some reason, there's low
flying
planes.
Yeah.
No idea why.
Yeah, there's just like, I guess, searching for the missing person. I don't know.
I don't know, but that's kind of amazing. It's like we'd put it on in post. It's because it's snowing here.
That's cool. That's like beautiful and also not terrifying at all due to climate change. So.
Absolutely. I know. I thought London, why is it snowing? Normally there's so much smog and trucks and stuff. And then this morning I woke up and there it was, beautiful. And I took my dog out and had a brilliant play. It was amazing. So much fun.
Yeah, I think they're strafing the trenches over on the outskirts of Pittsburgh. So.
Yeah, it's probably that, or looking for a dead body. One of the two. So great. And you were talking there about, how sometimes it's not your money. How do you find, like, let's say you've written the script, which I suppose between you, though, Justin, you're more of certainly with Synchronic, you're credited as the writer on that one, though I imagine you work together in terms of developing story, as always with these type of things, when you're both directing it, both producing it, and you seem to take it in turns to do the cinematography as well, which is really interesting in your projects. Once you've got your script, you're saying, cool, this is what we're going to do. How do you find the money? Is it people you've known? How do you get the investment to move forward in your world?
It's a really fun answer, actually. With Resolution, it was just money saved up from just odd jobs, working in restaurants, working as a production assistant, things like that. With Spring, it was a loan from a family member. And we really tried on that one to find more traditional financing. We went to the Cannes Film Festival and rode around on bikes from meeting to meeting in these like really cheap H&M suits that were falling apart.
Trying to look like businessmen, like little children dressed up as businessmen. Like, would you like to invest in my independent film?
And it was like the year that kept raining and we couldn't afford to stay. Like,
oh man, this sounds like a film in itself. It's great.
But we struck out on that. We could not find money to make Spring. So luckily a family member stepped in and invested in the movie. And then The Endless was basically constructed so that we could self-finance it in the way we did Resolution. But someone on Reddit sent me a direct message saying, hey, I'm a big fan of your movies. I'd like to invest. So they made a small investment into The Endless, and that's how we got it financed.
Actually, on the horror subreddit. It's one of my favorite subreddits, and it's just cool that directly made The Endless exist. So.
That's really cool. I love that.
Synchronic was a more traditional independent film financing avenue. And then we've done a project after Synchronic. It's partially self-financed again. And then some of it, oddly enough, as a grant from a company, interestingly enough. But yeah, it's kind of different every time. And I guess now that I say it out loud, even 5 movies in, we've had one that had the traditional independent financing route.
Oh, and actually it's worth mentioning that this was after The Endless. The Endless was pretty successful, financially and critically.
Indeed. And
I will still tell you that getting financing for Synchronic was a massive challenge. We did not have tons of options. We did not at all. Very, very few. A lot of people passed. Like, just saying, it never gets easier, and that's okay. That's just the game. Yeah, but Chronic was just a breath away from having no financing.
If we were, for example, from a country that had basically sort of government funds or soft money financing, I wonder if we would be one of those people that were able to access that.
Something that was interesting is we have this company called XYZ that connected with us right after Resolution got into Tribeca. They are our sales company, and they kind of, for a commission, arrange for buyers and distributors to come to screenings, and they basically negotiate the sale. And they've sold all of our movies. Something that's just interesting to know when you say, oh, the traditional financing route, they were also the people who brokered and found the financing for Synchronic. So in that way, they're also executive produced. So that, how did that happen? That's how that happened. XYZ sold Resolution, sold Spring, sold The Endless, and then helped find financing and arranged those meetings and, for Synchronic.
Amazing. That's really cool. And it does show, you do good work and you do write amazingly well and you present that. People do take that seriously. But for everyone listening, doors aren't suddenly going to fly open. You've still got to knock on those doors like you guys were doing, and you're probably turning up at all the festivals and the events and speaking to XYZ all the time and saying, look, here's that next project. Can we get this done? And you need your champions, and you guys seem like really cool guys. And I imagine that they're going, look, they're making great films and they're really nice. Let's work with them. Do you find that relationships in the film business is really important? In terms of getting on with people and not letting people take the piss as well. It's that fine balance.
Yeah, I mean, in exactly the way you put it, I guess when you say the phrase relationships are important in the film business, sometimes what people are referring to is like, hey, do you know people with more power than you have, or people that can open up doors for you and things like that?
Be related to someone. Yeah.
Have never found that to be helpful in almost any way.
Almost exclusively gross and weird and not helpful.
But we have a great relationship with our camera operator, Will, and we have a great relationship with our editor, Mike, and a great relationship with our production designer, Ariel, and our producer, Dave.
And XYZ, they're friends.
Yeah, all these people that are more lateral to us than above.
It's that sort of horizontal networking, which is sort of really more important.
Yeah, it's really funny. I remember the things that I was jealous of right when I moved out from film school in Florida to Los Angeles. When people would just have a meeting with a producer, or they got this thing financed, or they won a competition or something like that. And now I think about it, and it's sometimes there's little bumps of what would you call it? I wish this visual weren't a ladder, because it's not really a ladder, but it's more like an ocean rising, But there's little bumps that happen, but everybody's just trading places all the time, There was a time where Spring was more successful than Medicine for Melancholy. And then Barry Jenkins made Moonlight, So it was this thing where it's and that's a ridiculous thing to think about. It's this idea of man, I wish I had it. It's more no, look to your left, look to your right. Those are the people. It's not up. It's not up. It's the people around. It's the people that you are going to the potluck with. It is not the meeting that you're having on Wilshire Boulevard.
Yes, I love that advice. That's really cool.
It translates to almost any set you're on too, in terms of if you look at a call sheet for set, there will be executive producers that you've never met before. They'll never come to set. They don't need to. They were part of a different part of the business deal. It is way more important that the production assistants, the script supervisor, the gaffer, all these people, it's way more important that you have a good relationship with them and a good rapport with them than it is this person at the top of the call sheet who you've never met, because it's part of the business that you had nothing to do with. Now you're there to direct the film, and you need a good relationship with all these people that you're working with next to you.
There's also people that thrive on chaos, and I don't know how they operate, to be really honest. We thrive on peace and calm and harmony, and obviously there are ways to continue those emotions and those feelings and those bits of morale while still getting your vision. You know, you don't have to just compromise on anything, really. You can just find the solution without it being contentious and chaotic. We've been very fortunate that we've been able to kind of foster that on our sets, even the ones that we're not in full control of, like TV shows. And honestly, sometimes that's just luck of the draw. You know, like sometimes you're paired with someone. But, you know, I mean, Spring was just like a bunch of friends living in a cool little town in Italy. You know, The Endless was summer camp for adults. It was great. Synchronic, we all got to live in New Orleans.
How can you not love that? Absolutely. I love the visuals of it. It was gorgeous.
And everybody was hanging out with each other after set or on the weekends. And it's not this thing where it's just like, all right, keep your head down, do the job, get off work. And if it becomes that, look, I mean, it's going to happen someday. You know, I mean, these things happen. You just you pair up with the wrong person every once in a while. It's okay.
Yeah, it is. But as long as you get through it, right, and you get to the other side. So you're basically saying not that you go to LA less, but I imagine you were going there at the beginning after Spring, and you know the Resolution. You were going to those meetings in LA. Now, I suppose, is it less of that? Is it much more of, look, we don't need, obviously right now you can't travel anywhere anyway. But you know, before COVID, was it a case of, well, look, we're all right? Or, you know, had you gone through that whole cycle of the LA meeting to a meeting, we've got you another meeting, you know, just endless nothingness at the end of it, like Mark Duplass does say?
We've had phases where we do go from general meeting to general meeting to general meeting. And we do it less, but obviously now during COVID, now it's all Zoom.
So easy,
Zoom easy meeting. Now.
I'll take a Zoom meeting. Yeah. Actually, you know what? We had a cool strategy that it hasn't completely like panned out into a movie yet, but it will. We ended up getting representation, I believe, right after Spring, and you know, they can do anything for you. Then they're wonderful, where they can try to set up your movie, and to limited success sometimes, and they can set you up on these general meetings. But there's something that nobody takes advantage of. If you're at a major agency, all agencies want to do is to get your movie made with all of the people that are also at that agency. So he said, set us up on just meetings that mean nothing with all of your actors. And so we just have, you know, coffee with actors that were just willing to meet with us. It was never people that could finance a movie, which is fine. That's, you know, we're not meeting people for financial gain here. But there's always a world where it's like, one is like, oh, we have a perfect role for them. And then there's another world where we have a meeting with that person that when we met them, they couldn't finance a movie, and then suddenly they can, you know? And
yes.
And so that's one really good use of it. And that's actually going back to Mark Duplass's idea, where I think he calls him like Ronnie Hercules or something like that, where he's like it's just an actor that can kind of finance a movie, you know? But also, like, you see who you click with. You imagine when you're writing, you imagine roles for them and all of that. And it kind of like helps piece the filmmaking process together more than like, you know, a general meeting where someone says, I like your movies, and you say, I like your office, you know, like, you know, and by the way, no one takes advantage of that. Like we came up with it.
Yes. Yeah, no, I love that. I think that's really clever. Because it's true, those people on the way up, the actors, you never know where they're going to go, but it's all about who you click with and connect with. Because it's very rare that anyone can really finance a movie, especially in the worlds we're playing in, the independent world, unless you've got Brad Pitt, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio in your movie. The rest of them might be able to finance it, but not really, you know, so everyone else is just a brilliant actor to have in. So it's great you're forging those relationships, and I think that's vital. People get hung up on it a lot, especially in the UK. It's like, oh, we've got to get that name in, get this name in. You're like, but you know as well as I do that they're not going to either do it or they're not big enough to sell the movie around the world. So surely we just get the best people for the parts, and because it's a great project and a great script, let's make it that way, right?
Spoken, yeah, like a true filmmaker,
like a true Mark Duplass.
Yeah, I mean, because you're right. The truth is, there really is only, I mean, it is a very, very small number of people who actually make the numbers pencil out in terms of like, it's very small, and those people are booked out for years. So
it's kind of hilarious. Like Justin and I have had these saddest discussions being like, okay, I mean, he's an amazing actor and we would love to work with him, but really, are we going to submit our $2 million movie to Brad Pitt right now? And by the way, if he said yes, it would be a joy, you know, but also like, really? This is how we're going to get our movie made? This is the plot? This is the path?
Yeah, exactly. Because imagine if he did say yes, and also that would change everything as well, because suddenly now he'd need, it's not his fault, but his agents and managers would suddenly pile in, and the budget would just go through the roof generally, but it would all be spent on the gubbins around that and who's buying it, and rather than the film, right? You wouldn't get any more to make it.
Gosh, put it this way. What if you were you're the manager and an agent and business manager and all the people of Keanu Reeves, for example, right?
Yeah, good choice.
And you all meet up for dinner and you're like, so what happened today was that someone sent Keanu this script that has a budget of $1 million. Keanu has a lot of money and he's very passionate about the script. So he's going to pass up the project that was going to pay him $30 million. They're like, it will cost us $5,000 to have those people killed. Like, seriously, you're messing with the money. Like, you are preventing them from millions of dollars.
Yeah.
If they were to be like, I love this.
The person who manages Keanu is just like, my wife is about to have a child. Keanu, you cannot do that. Like, all right, do you understand? And by the way, that has nothing to do with the actor. A lot of the time there's ways that it just doesn't even get to the actor in that way. And it's okay, by the way. It's not like something to hate on. It's just the game. You got to figure out the game, and figuring out the game is not taking these ridiculous long shots. Actually, here's a great example that goes all the way back to Synchronic. Do you know how we got, it's funny, we're talking about these mega stars as if we could never touch them. And then we have Anthony Mackie and Jamie Dornan in our film. Here's how that happened. We made The Endless, which actually, let me back up even further. And so we made Spring, and then we were like, we need to make a larger movie. Like it's time, 1, 2, and then 3, you step up, right? And we were just kind of struggling with it. And we decided, you know what, while we're trying to make that bigger movie, which by the way, it wasn't just ideas, we had plans in motion, scripts exist, big movies. And we're just like, okay, you know what, just while we're trying to make those happen, because meetings take forever and you submit something and it's 6 weeks before you hear back and all that, we can make a whole movie in between that. So we thought we'd sneak a movie in, which turned out to be The Endless. And because we made The Endless, late one night in a North Hollywood theater of its release, what happened?
There was an agent named Houston Costa at UTA who just liked the poster and wanted to go see the movie. And then he just really connected with it. Just really loved the film. And he sent us an email saying, hey, I'm sure you get messages like this all the time. But he's like, I'm legit. I'm an agent here. I really just want to help you guys get your next thing made. I love your movie. And he is the one who basically, he got Jamie Dornan on board and really facilitated over there getting Anthony interested and getting the script in Anthony's hands. And Synchronic wouldn't exist without Houston Costa seeing the poster of The Endless in North Hollywood and just going to go check it out.
For that tiny movie that we thought was the gamble, the thing that just keeps us busy while we're trying to make the bigger thing. It was no, you just got to do the work. You do the work. And then that is the perfect example of the formula of luck is opportunity meets preparedness, where it's look, you can't depend on something like Houston wandering in, but if we hadn't just made The Endless after making Spring, after making Resolution, that opportunity couldn't have existed, so that luck, which is luck, but it would have been something else, or maybe nothing, and we would have had to make a fourth movie just like The Endless until something kind of wild like that happens. But what it wasn't is making one movie and then submitting our script directly to Jamie Dornan. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't that. It was this other thing.
That's incredible. And to quote your own movie, random events, chance, and luck. That's what he says in the movie, right? And that's kind of what you said just now, which is so cool. Really cool. I think it's so true. It's all about who you meet along the way, how your career. Don't expect a door over there to open. Just keep doing what you're doing, and things will happen because you're filmmakers and you're making things. Incredible. Had you always planned to make this kind of a high-end, really intricate, deep, dark sci-fi, with Synchronic? Was your other movie kind of like that as well? Because a lot of your movies do go down that route. Was that kind of your vibe? Is the horror sci-fi angle? Was Synchronic? Was that let's go there? This is what we want to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because I think since our first movie, the way they've been described has been the term genre bending. And it's always been an interesting thing to internalize what that means for us as the filmmakers of these things. Like, what exactly does that mean and why people are saying them? And it's weird because when you make movies so far kind of outside the system and outside of a little bit outside of more outside commercial concerns than you usually do for such like a populous form of entertainment, we just don't talk that much about specifically what genre it is. Now, that said, we start with an idea that is no doubt science fiction. But then we're like, okay, but how do we make this thrilling? And oftentimes it's, okay, how do we, a sense of unease, a sense of dread. Another synonym for that is scary. So then you end up with like, okay, well, what genre is scary? Well, that's horror. Okay, so now we've got sci-fi, we've got horror, and then our other instinct is to focus on characters, and then you've got drama, and thus you've got this thing, the genre bending. When we're working on them, and when we're discussing it before the script is even written, and when we're developing the script, and when we're shooting, and when we're choosing shots and doing all of these things, we are trying to scare people. We are trying to make people cry. We are trying to express a science fiction idea that we just found that blew our hair back at some point. We found really interesting. We're trying to do all those things. We're just not often expressing it in terms of the specific genre.
The thing that we realized after we started getting called genre bending a lot is that genre it's descriptive instead of prescriptive. Like you don't say, okay, in order to make a horror film, I need to fit things into this box. What it needs to be, at least creatively, is make the film and then let the marketing department describe it. You can make it a prescriptive thing where you say, all right, if I want it to be more horror, I need to do these things more. Mm-hmm. It's possible. It's just, and by the way, that's resulted in some really great movies. It just doesn't really work for us because it ends up forcing you into conventions that didn't come logically or emotionally as per what you were trying to do in the first place. But there's always a world where you just think like, no, I want this to be scarier. How do I do that? And sometimes you can just do that by playing with horror conventions, truly. And sometimes you do it by thinking about how do you make them care about the characters more? Because if you really care about the characters, then them just tripping over a rock and hitting their nose will freak you out, you know?
Yeah, no, it's true. And people often try and put you in a box, especially agents and managers, like, no, but you've made a horror or a sci-fi, you do need to make another one. And it's quite interesting having those conversations now with agents and managers, and they are saying, well, because I've jumped genre quite a lot, and they're kind of, well, that's okay, you know, but you can hear them, they'd prefer it if you were just the horror guy or the sci-fi guy or the historical action guy, because it's easy for them to sell you. Again, like the Keanu Reeves thing, it's much easier to go, Keanu, you're not doing that, you know, put you in a box, this is how much you're getting paid per film, you're not going to go off and do that because we won't be able to eat next week. They will, but you know what I mean? And I think as filmmakers, that's difficult, and it's hard to do that. And I'm proud of you guys for sticking to going, no, we're going to do what we want to do, and you guys can put it in whatever box you want later.
Yeah, to be fair to our own representation, they've never actually pushed us towards anything in particular. What they have done though, and which is actually not a fault, but when they're fencing scripts that get submitted to them, a lot of the times that people, what they submit is something like, as you say, we made when all we had was resolution, we were getting every cabin in the woods haunted house thing in the world. Whereas like, I barely even thought of that as like a haunted house movie exactly. Now I kind of do, but when we were making it, I was like, it's a drama with this bizarre other thing going on that is also horrifying, you know? But I guess what I mean is to our agents and managers' credit, they have never pushed us on anything. They've just tried to get our movies made. And then they have submitted us what they think are the right scripts, but they've never said you should really do this, you know.
That's really good. Yeah, that's really nice. And the fact is you write your own stuff as well, you know, is a really, I think, a really important and special thing. Did you come up with quite a lot of ideas? Do you put them down in a book? How do you create your ideas? How do you then start turning them into scripts?
Well, one thing that's kind of interesting is that in terms of how many ideas we come up with, probably something like 5 to 10% of what we work on makes it out into the world that people see. There's so much that just doesn't make it past the development process. We've had several TV shows that got to the point of like a pilot script and didn't go, and lots of unmade independent feature scripts. But generally the way it just goes is they'll just be in a concept, a premise that we were both passionate about. We'll talk a whole lot about it, get out a first draft of the script. And then from that point on, it's pretty much like drafted mostly between Aaron and I, but we'll also oftentimes like send it to 10 people, get feedback on especially things like clarity and are the ideas that you are trying to get across, are those punching through to other people? How high is the comprehension and all of that? Our producer, Dave, also is involved in the development of them.
Yeah, Dave Lawson, who runs the production company Rustic Films, right?
Yeah, you guys should bring him on, actually. He's great.
Oh, great. Yeah, we will. Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. And I think Synchronic is probably the only thing we have that had any amount of input from anyone else outside our small company, but not very much. And then we have a lot of the stuff that had input we developed other places, just unfortunately didn't quite happen. We have we have a movie and a TV show about Aleister Crowley that was developed at 2 different places basically. And that's like our whiteboard. That's like something where it's like, oh man, we developed that so much in so many different forms. And
we've got a graphic novel, we've got a documentary, we've got a feature film, we got several different versions of a feature film, we've got a TV show. I think we just need to start like inscribing it on bars of soap. Like it's got to exist in some form of media somewhere.
You can just sell it on eBay. Yeah, even that. And when you've got your scripts, or you've got the idea down, you've discussed it, how do you sit and write it?
And do you sort of delegate that kind of feature of who's going to be the writer first, or does that sort of happen as part of the process?
Well, the first one, it's funny, try to do it somewhat differently each time in terms of just like, again, there's a lot of content that gets created. And if it was the same way every time, it would be a little bit more of a grind. So it's like, oh, it's fun. And it's funny, this is going to get really boring. It's like, oh, sometimes just discuss it and don't use a treatment or outline. Other times use a treatment. Sometimes use an outline. Sometimes write it as a short story first. Just doing different things to use one's brain differently. So it just feels like you're not like clocking in and clocking out every time. Because again, when we're not on set, we're just constantly generating new material. Just trying to do it a little bit differently each time.
I mean, I guess there's the thing that we're working on right now was definitely, we talked about it the most, I think, of anything we've ever worked on, where we were working it out to like 40 page thing before it became a script. And, but also that one, we didn't send it to anyone. No one has any idea what we just made, except for our producer, Dave. So, because he was the 3rd crew member and we made a 3-person movie. So
that's so cool.
Yeah. So we just have like this film that no one has any idea.
Oh, congratulations. That's so cool. Yeah. I think it's great to be creative and, whenever you can. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what you're doing because, whatever you're doing at the moment is just fantastic. I love how you've created, and it sounds like a really exciting bubble to be in when you're all bouncing ideas off and sat there. I love it when that happens. You're in a room with people and it's like, bam, bam, how about this? How about that? And you suddenly create something like that. It's wonderful. Were you the same on set then? Are you the same with the camera moves and the planning of that, in terms of, have you got all your shots done, but then when you're on set, especially the one you've just done with a very small amount of people, are you kind of creating on the spot? How do you work?
No, actually, no. It's very. Our sets are, when we said they're really, really smooth. One of the reasons is all of that stuff happens in prep. Happens in the shot list phase. Happens in the rehearsal phase. We rehearse as much as we can possibly get, and sometimes we can't get it. But like Synchronic, where it's like it's really hard to convince anyone to bring Anthony and Jamie for 2 weeks just to rehearse on something. They would have done it. It's a scheduling issue, But no, we like to create our films almost completely in pre-production so that when we're on set, we're executing an extremely intricate plan. However, what we find is that doesn't mean that it's rigid. That means that if anything magical happens, we can embrace it. Because we have this thing to fall back to at any time. We have a very huge. We're not waiting for inspiration to strike us. We're there. We have the inspiration struck weeks ago, and we're trying to execute that. And then if something amazing happens, we can embrace it quickly because there's already so much other structure underneath it. It won't be this thing that accidentally is this piece of yarn that unspools the whole sweater.
Also, something we've realized, getting on with more and more projects over the last decade is that on the really small ones, you can kind of get some form of everything on your shot list. Like, even if it's like, it's a little simpler than what you were hoping, you'll kind of get everything, and and you just like start burning through at certain times of the day.
You need an insert? Give me the camera. All right, grab the thing. All right, got it. And I rolled the camera myself. Yep. All right, cool. All right, we got it.
On much bigger projects, when things it's much harder to turn that ship. You find yourself like, you really come to terms with what's most important on that shot list, because you just have there's less time. You can't just grab that camera. That'll be a union problem. And amongst many other things, throw the set into chaos.
My genuine preference and something that I've been trying to like work out, and we should talk about this and see if we can do it, but is on these large projects that I can keep one of those Blackmagic cameras slung around my shoulder, like, and just, if there's an insert we need, I'm just empowered to just go grab it. That would just be unbelievable. And with a zoom lens slung on my shoulder, and nobody can stop me. I rolled it.
I love that, and it's so true, because it's on the bigger movies. It's really difficult to do, because as soon as you touch that red button and people freak the fuck out.
We've decided we're just like just don't cut the camera. Don't cut the camera. Just keep going, because once you cut, people lose their mind and the set explodes. It's so weird.
Yeah, isn't it weird? Yeah, no, I'm the same. I don't cut a lot of the time. I'll just be like, yeah, let's go get that, because it's going to cause so many problems as soon as you say cut or turn over, whichever the one. But I like that idea of just having a Blackmagic over your shoulder. I'm just going to get this. Like you're doing a behind the scenes type thing. No one will know in the edit.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I mean, it's because you obviously shot the film, Aaron. So like, how does that work with, in terms of you're not necessarily self-operating all the time, you're having to delegate that, but obviously Synchronic is a film that looks amazing. So how do you sort of approach that from a technical angle and like really try and punch above like as much of a level as you're at in terms of the budget?
It goes back to what we were just saying about prep. Justin and I make a lot of those decisions in shot listing and prep and all of that. And, lighting ideas are part of our shot list, where we just, and so how to execute that lighting turns into, it's less intricate than you'd think. And we have an operator, Will Sampson, who has worked with us on almost every movie. And he just kind of gets us. He's like this cowboy that just kind of understands that it's like, just roll the camera, just get it. Like he really gets it. But like when it comes to lighting and stuff, I just have to find gaffers that I get along with that kind of instinctually understand what I'm after. Because I'll be honest, I don't know the intricacies of like if I was gaffing a movie myself, there would be an electrical fire. Now that doesn't mean that I say, hey, light the scene dark. I mean, I do still say, put the light there. It is this kind of light, is this kind of diffusion, is this color. Like it's very specific. But then after that, where it's like, how do you run the cables and how do you manage the power? I don't deal with that. Frankly, the answer is working with Will Sampson and working with a wonderful gaffer that's normally local to wherever we're shooting. And that pressure, it's less time consuming than you'd think. And there's still plenty of time to direct. You give them their marching orders and then they go off and do it. Justin and I do our thing. I tweak a little bit here and there. The one thing I guess I really miss is operating myself. Will is way more talented than me, but I do just kind of miss being 3 feet in front of the actor with the camera and just getting exactly what we're doing. I'll probably still do it, especially if we shoot on film or something like that. But the problem is genuinely, there's just this heavy thing on my shoulder and it kind of makes a lot of noise when it's not rolling. It just adds this whole extra level to trying to direct, where it's just like, it's heavy and it's loud. And it just kind of like distracts you on top of the things that you have to do as an operator, as a cinematographer. And then that's before we get to talking about directing.
Because I've operated a couple of times, and especially on the smaller stuff. And I found suddenly I couldn't direct as well, or couldn't speak to it. Suddenly I was so concentrating on the shot that when they said, oh, cool, well, let's talk about it, I was like, I have no idea what you just did. I thought I got an amazing shot, and that's not where I should be.
And I guess you guys are sort of in constant communication throughout, like, in terms of like Justin with the directing and Aaron with the cinematography stuff. How often do you have to find that you have to talk to each other to make sure you're in sync with the vision of what's going on screen?
It's funny because on a lot of things now, especially since Aaron's not operating, we're literally sitting next to each other. So that's just like a constant communication thing.
I don't feel like a DP when we're shooting. I feel like I'm just directing and you also direct the lighting. Like that's all.
The other thing too is we just did a project where we were swapping off operating. from shot to shot. And it wasn't, there's no breakdown in communication at all. But I will say that on the topic of like operating and directing, you speak to people very, very differently when you're drenched in sweat and holding a camera. and like,
there's something to be said for that. Yeah.
And you're really exhausted. Neither one of us is ever unkind on set. It's very direct.
Well, it is. It's because it's really hard to hold that camera for any length of time. Your arms are killing. You are sweating. And someone talks to you about something. You're like, well, yeah, it's a very different feeling, isn't it? Where you've been sat behind a monitor or talking to actors to suddenly, it's a very, can we just get this or whatever it is? But yeah, like you say, you're keeping a really friendly atmosphere on set. But when it's just you lot, yeah, it does change everything, doesn't it? Fascinating. How do you work with actors then? Because obviously this time you had Anthony Mackie and Jamie Dornan, who are both absolutely fantastic in their own rights. Jamie's been around a while in my world as well, especially The Fall, which is a big UK show. I don't know how much it
love The Fall.
There you go. Amazing. He's amazing. How was that working with them, that level of actor for you? Did it change anything, bringing them on? How do you work with actors generally?
In all of our movies except Synchronic, we had a really long time for rehearsals, which are great for getting the performance dialed into basically almost precisely where you want it, but also developing a rapport with the actor where you understand what each individual needs from you when you get to set. What's going to be the best thing for everyone. And that's the preference still. But with Synchronic, we didn't have that. And we just got really lucky in that instance where Jamie and Anthony are just very nice guys who didn't make our lives terrible. They were very kind to us. And despite the fact that sets are always places where you just got to give people a little bit of room and a little more than the real world of like how you respond to things and all of that. And yeah, and I mean, also too, it's funny, relationship with actors is always a weird thing too, because I think from the outside of movie making and filmmaking, people think that there might be some sort of like really romantic or severe trick you can do to get particular performances out of people, when really there's very little you can do. You just get to know them and figure out what they need from you, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then you can make little adjustments here and there, and hopefully they've done their preparation, and then everything's going to be great.
Yeah.
But I do think they're more likely to do the preparation if they sense in you that you've done yours and that you're putting a lot of work into it. I think usually people will match you with that.
Yeah. And I think people believe there's a causal connection sometimes between like a tortured artist that is a jerk to everyone, but is also super talented, normally men. And they think there's a causal connection between them being a jerk and them being talented. And having worked with tons of incredibly talented people, that is so not true. And so because of that, we personally have a policy where it's like, if they're just notoriously tough to work with, I don't really care how good they are. I'm not going to work with them. My life is too short. Our sets there's not enough time in the day to have people that are true personalities that think that they're, better than anybody else on set. I just rather work with someone else. There's somebody that is equally talented that will not make your life shorter.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. It's so important, isn't it? It really is. It's so hard on set as it is. You don't want to have someone who's difficult. So yeah, I love that. Boys, I could talk to you guys all day. You're fantastic. You're a real inspiration for filmmakers out there. And honestly, Synchronic is a beautiful, gorgeous, fantastic film. I was going to put it in a genre then, but I'm not.
It's kind of got that sort of Martin Scorsese, like After Hours, Bring Out the Dead, obviously, those kind of gritty Scorsese sort of movies, but with that sci-fi element as well. It's just really, it's a real interesting, unique work.
So well done. I'd love to get you boys on again to talk about the movie you've just made. So when that is announced or done or whatever, let's talk again. I'd love to hear about that. It'd be fantastic. But for now, thank you very much, Aaron, Justin. You're superstars. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Pleasure. Synchronic's out now. Everyone, do go watch it. Remember, you can make your indie film. You can make it happen. And if you're lucky enough to rise up and do well, just as Justin and Aaron have done, it's your duty to send the elevator back down. Robbie, thank you very much.
Thank you, Giles.
My pleasure. See you, boys. Take care. All the best.